The goal is to make it the worst driving Mustang Fastback in the world. I think it might qualify. That is, if we can get it driving. Well, happy Memorial Day, everybody. As you can see, the Mustang is not at the shop. I needed to bring it over to my house because I can work on it in the evenings. I do take care of my mom, Sally, and so that makes it difficult to leave to go over to the shop. I'm gonna take care of a number of things over here at my house. What I'm doing today is pressure washing under the hood. There's a lot of surface rust. Gonna blast all that off, then put some rust converter on it. The rest of the car might look bad, but under the hood, we want it to look good. So I'm about to put the trunk lid on. These hinges are just froze up. I tell you what, these things, listen to this. They're on there. And that's with PB Blaster sprayed on there. That's a lovely sound, isn't it? Some people, when they're talking to you, they kind of sound like that, don't they? I'm doing great. All right, now for the other two. Hopefully they don't give us any trouble. This car's 60 years old and the frame rail leaves a lot to be desired. I think it's enough to drive it on a 1,000-mile trip, but there's not much there. And this is where the gas tank rests. I mean, there's just not, there's enough to hold, I think, a 16-gallon gas tank, but it's kind of iffy. Hopefully these two are going to come out without giving us any trouble. Oh yeah, one started. Uh-oh, that's not good. Vice grips. I'm using vice grips that I found on the side of the road. I saved them and now they are saving me, hopefully. Okay, that's tight. This is how you start out with a 15-minute job and 3 hours later you're still working on it. I mean, it is spinning. I really want to put this trunk lid on tonight. I couldn't get that last bolt out, but it's kind of sticking out, kind of like just a pin. So I'll use it as an alignment pin and go ahead and put the other 3 bolts in, and that'll do for now. Hey, let me get the picture. Touching on this side and a 1/2 inch on this side. Just where you want it. I've got lenses coming for the tail lights. I found that gas cap. It doesn't fit real good. You can't get it on there, and then when it's on there, you can't get it off. But it's period correct for the car. Yeah, you gotta love that lock. It's better. Imagine you're living 100 years ago. It's 1924. Most places don't have running water or electricity. Cars are just not that common yet. And you come cruising up in the Mustang Trashback. You would be the coolest. But now, people just think you're crazy. I had 6 front seats to choose from. Maybe I got the best. It's just really hard to know because they're all bad. This one's gonna do for now. It's got kind of a rust hole in the back of it. What's that rust? Ah, they just whacked me in the noggin. Part your phone off. Come on, Ford, you should have had some lighter seats, man. Save on gas. The studs that go down through the floor, some of them are bent a little bit, so I gotta figure out which ones to go in first. There's one in there. It's in the hole. It's in the hole.
It looks like I'm a wreck. It's in the hole. It's in the hole.
My goal currently is to have a driver's seat and brakes on the car. Electrical, I do want seat belts, especially on a car like this. An engine and transmission, headlights, taillights, windshield. It's another day here in the shop and 10 days until Hot Rod Power Tour, where this car goes on a 1,000-mile road trip. Is it gonna make it? Probably not. Got a radiator put in. This is a Griffin radiator made in Piedmont, South Carolina. Made in the USA might cost a little bit more, but I think it's worth it. I did get pads in. Got some Bendix pads. Got some brake hoses. Also got some Melling made in the USA freeze plugs for the motor, because currently we have some rubber plugs in there and that's not good. Gonna be putting some QA1 shocks on the front and rear. We have some QA1s already that I think we can make work on the front, and then we're ordering some for the rear. Of course, made in the USA on that too. Got everything painted under here, so that looks a lot better. I need to paint the outside still. Got a janky seat in here. Also, got a trunk lid on. Yeah, that trunk lid is absolutely horrendous. And it doesn't latch. I'm gonna have to just tie it down. It's coming along. 10 days to go, and we're right on schedule. 9 days before Hot Rod Power Tour, and this car needs to be finished. Today, I'm working on putting in the sending unit and the fuel pickup on the gas tank. This would be the front of the car facing this way. The filler tubes on the top, in the back. Pretty wild, you would think. Electricity and gas don't mix, but it's just right there in the gas, and it doesn't light on fire, amazingly. I guess the engineers know what they're doing. So there's not much to this, at least I hope. Got a seal, got a screw-on flange, so I'll drop that in there after I get the seal on there first. Guess it goes down in that groove. I don't know if I should be using some sealer on it. I don't have any, so I'm gonna just let the rubber do the work. Should be facing down, so the float goes up. Am I gonna have a gas gauge? Not initially. There we go. Simple enough. This thing's even got a drain plug in here. That's pretty nice. I do want to paint the bottom of the tank black because this sticks out from below the car and it looks way too nice. We can't have that. I was able to crack this brake line loose. I don't know how long it's been since this car has been on the road, but it's not totally dry. There's actually brake fluid up inside there. That's a win. The rubber feels soft. On these calipers, I couldn't get the bleeder screws out. I bet they've never been rebuilt. It's about $100 a caliper. I'm gonna go the safer route and go ahead and do that. I got the front painted, just did that this evening. I've been spending a lot of time researching and ordering parts. If you're gonna get your project done, you know, there's shipping time. You've got to get that stuff done up front. I've got this disc removed because this caliper bracket, you can see there's one bolt in there. The other one is broke off in the hole. I was able to get that off, fortunately, and I've got another one ordered. I could maybe try to get that out of there, but it would probably be a challenge. And so I went ahead and ordered another one. It was like $42. I'm going to put the disc back on there and put the wheel on so the car is a roller. All right, all right, all right. How about those disc brakes? Well, there's no brakes. It's just a disc. You might be saying, Tim, you going to turn those rotors? Yeah, they're going to turn when the car drives down the road. I'm about to put some grease in these Zerk fittings. About to lube it up. Then I'm going to put the wheel back on because I need the car to be a roller, and currently it's not. Well, that's a wrap for the night. I was up under the car and the brake lines on the back axle, I mean, it's not really a surprise. They're so rusted that they were just like breaking so easily. There was already a break in one of them where it splits off the T. So I'm going to hopefully get a brake line kit tomorrow. And then I'm going to have to buy wheel cylinders because the bleeder screws are just gone. Really, it comes down to this. I need to make the car to where it will stop. And then I need to make the car to where it will go. So those are the two things. It's that simple. I don't think there's going to be a problem getting it all done. I could be delusional. That's very likely. On a previous episode, Jake said it wasn't that bad under this car. I think I might have to disagree with that. You got all those mud dauber nests. There's our fuel line and our brake line, which are going to have to be changed. There's the bottom of the frame rail. This side is actually, it doesn't look that bad under here. From up top, it looks pretty rough. I think it'll do okay for a 1,000-mile road trip. This side is much better. I guess if it was all cleaned up, pressure washed, and then covered with paint, it probably wouldn't be horrible. My solution for fixing all this rust is maybe some paint on the bottom side, but fiberglass on the top side. It's just quicker, easier. Maybe at some point I'll change out sheet metal, but what's that saying that Rusty Mobley has? A temporary solution is sometimes the most permanent fix you'll ever do. Something like that. My first order of business is to clean out this rear end housing. Apparently in either the drive over here with the car on the trailer or just from sitting for a year, there are leaves in the axle housing. So yeah, there we go. We wouldn't want to leave those in there, although they'd probably just grind up. Yeah, and there's a little bit of gear oil left over from, I don't know, 60 years ago maybe? Yeah, I've got to pull the wheels off and pull the axles out. I can then put in the differential. I don't know what, this feels like pieces of metal or something. I don't know. Feels like little pieces of bearing. I will say, if you're working on a car, especially in the summer when you're wearing shorts, get you some old carpet or cardboard or something to make it nicer for you to work under the car. So I've got this thing cleaned out. You can see the axle inside the tube that's welded in there. Anyway, I'm going to get all this old gasket scraped off and try to get this differential in here. I think scraping gaskets is one of the most arduous and time-consuming tasks there is. This one actually seems to be coming off pretty good. 60-year-old paper gasket, I guess. I need a narrower scraper, but this is all I could find. Sometimes you just got to use what you got. There's a plug here on the back, so the level is going to be about right here. So your main concern is the lower portion, because it's going to have a little bit of pressure on it from the fluid. So you want to get the bottom as good as possible. The top, maybe it's not so important. So the difference between Ford and GM of course has the plate on the back, the differential cover, and Ford, they have the chunk that gets installed from the front side. That is a more convenient system, and obviously race car people like it because that's what is in most of the race cars. It's not a Ford 8-inch like this one, it's a Ford 9-inch, but it's the same concept. It's put in from the front side of the axle housing. They just do better. Race car people are going to figure out the best system and use it. The one that is the toughest, the one that's the easiest to use. That's why most race cars have Ford 9-inches in them. At least the drag cars. I imagine others as well, because they're just easier to deal with. You can set them up on a bench. If you want to change your gear, you can just swap it out by taking loose the bolts, pulling it out, putting another one in. You cannot do that with a GM. So it's called a chunk or a differential. I think it's called a chunk just because it's a big chunk of steel. You can use those names interchangeably. All right, I think that'll do. What do y'all think? Is that cleaned up enough? Let's have a look inside there. It's not perfect, but I'll wipe it out one more time and that'll do. One thing I want to do while I am down here is go ahead and crack this, because there might be a little debris that falls on the inside because it's been sitting for so long, and I'll have the opportunity to clean it out. Let's see if it works. I sprayed a little PB blaster on it. I'm using like a 24-inch breaker bar. And it's not wanting to move. That was nice. I think that's gonna bleed. Reminds me of that Alan Jackson song. My daddy skinned his knuckles on the cars that he repaired. Yeah, I just skinned my knuckle. But at least I know this thing will open. And if anything falls on the inside, I'll be able to clean it out while I got the front opened. So y'all tell me, what are these? They look like the rollers on bearings. I don't know if they were at the wheel or on a previous differential bearing. They were in the bottom of the axle housing. I'll pull the axles out and see if I see anything missing. If not, we'll just go ahead and button it up and send it. Yeah, got this dude buzzing around me. I don't think that's a yellow jacket. I think it's a hornet. Get away from me. Anyway, I've got to loosen these 4 bolts. Those are what hold the axle in, and you can spin the axle to get access to all 4. And then I can pull the axles out. Got to do it on both sides. I've also got to change these wheel cylinders out while I'm in here. I should probably change these brake shoes out. This axle does not want to come out, so I'm using the drum as a slide hammer. It'll get some energy in motion and then snatch on this axle. I don't recall what Jacob did. He had some trick, I think, that he used to get these off of here. But he already loosened them up a year ago, so maybe it'll come out easy, right? I need a slide hammer or something. All right, so I got this monkey wrench that I'm gonna pry against the wheel cylinder, and maybe that will do it. It moved a little. Come on. Or something moved. It's probably just bending the backing plate a little. I don't think it's supposed to be this difficult, but you know how that goes. There it is. It ain't stupid if it works. I mean, it might be stupid, but it still might work. Maybe it's just the backing plate that's moving and the axle is not actually coming out because I am an idiot. Or maybe it's a little of both. I don't know. I do have to make a trip to O'Reilly, and I think they have a slide hammer, and I could just rent it. I took the retainer off and put the nuts back on. I had a problem with the backing plate moving back. This allowed me to secure it at the bottom, and then I got this funky monkey wrench, was able to, I'd already popped it loose, but anyway, you get the picture. Sometimes you have to improvise to get the result you need. I checked the bearing, it feels okay. Got this axle out. I'm gonna do this wheel cylinder while I have all this off. I just took off this one spring because I thought maybe that gives me enough freedom to change it out. I'm going to now try to pull this wheel cylinder. I got the 2 bolts out of the back, and of course the brake line is not there. I had to clamp the vice grips on it, then bang them a couple times. Got it loosened up, so maybe I can get it out. The vice grips are coming loose. Need to regrip, regroup, regrip. It doesn't want to come out. There it is. Okay, yeah, this might work. There we go. After 60 years, I'll slap a new one in there, and I think I'm just gonna use what I have, everything else. All right, here's the new one. That pin stayed on there. I put some grease on it because it was rusty. That is a contact point. There's a lot of pressure that comes out when these 2 pistons inside here expand when you press on the brake pedal. So I greased this one up a little bit before I stuck it in that dust boot. You know, if you got something like that, little grease goes a long way. We're gonna pop that in there, put a couple bolts in the back, hold it in that circle. You see where it goes in there? Looks like a little animal with ears. We'll get that on there and she'll be as good as new. We're going to Summit to get some car parts. What do you think about that? You look like a deer in headlights. I've got both axles out. I've got the wheel cylinders replaced on both sides. I need to put in the diff, but I'm going to Summit to get some parts. I need a pressure switch for the brake line to turn on my brake lights, and hopefully it's the last run. It is now dark. I've made it back from Summit. Also stopped by O'Reilly. Got made in the USA, McGuard lug nuts. Got some ARP header bolts, also made in the USA. Got a pressure brake switch from Painless, autometer gauges, and various brake lines. These are gonna really come in handy because I'm not gonna have to make every brake line. They're already pre-made. I just need to bend them and bolt them in. Over here, I'm about to put this diff in. Yeah, it's got broken teeth, but Mike Bozelli drove it from Canada down to, I think, one of the Carolinas like this. They're on the outside edge. Their pinion is more towards the center, so I don't really even know how that happened. I'm sure it will fail at some point on the Hot Rod Power Tour. These pieces of bearings, parts previously known as bearings, I don't see that either of the wheel bearings are messed up. I don't think there was a problem with the diff Jake took out. The car is 60 years old and we don't know the history, so who knows? Anyway, I'm about to get this diff in there. I got to put the gasket up on the axle housing first. I'm going to use some sealer. I love it when a plan comes together. That's a quote from the A-Team in case you young'uns don't know it. I was thinking about it earlier while I was under the car. I've never put in a differential in all my years of working on cars. So for you people who think, oh, you got all this experience and knowledge, think that you can't do it, well, I've never done it either. Sometimes you just wing it. You ask questions, you check YouTube, do your homework, and then make it happen. It's just a big 3D jigsaw puzzle that you got to figure out how to put it together, and it rolls down the road without killing you. Time to put in the passenger side axle. There it is. That wasn't bad. It's going to be so nice dealing with these new wheel cylinders, new bleeder screws. Yeah, it really didn't add that much time to it, and it did add, I think, a huge level of safety, because those things were probably not good anyway. We're about to have a wheel on here. Oh yeah. All right, now we just got to put the drum on there. It is 11:47 on a Sunday night. I have to work at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I don't know what time I'll get done, but I just got to put the wheel on here and get over to the other side. I'm resurfacing the drums. These cans don't last very long, but this stuff, and I probably shouldn't be touching it, is well worth its money because, man, is it clean. I guess that's why they call it brake clean. Not bad. It's gonna get hot and bake off any minor amount. Right? Seems plausible. I need to scrape that drum a little so the wheel sits against it properly. Alright, that looks better. You know, we're professionals here. It's 1:30 and I finally got the car good enough to sit down on the ground. It's a roller again. By the way, that's a bullet hole, as far as we know. Wonder which way it went when it went in the car. It is Monday night, June 3rd. You see the wheels are back on the car, so the diff is in, the wheel cylinders are on there, so I just need to run the brake lines now, which should be pretty easy because I got nice new wheel cylinders to connect to. I've got the calipers for the front that need to go on there. Yeah, 1964 technology. That's how they came from the factory. Maybe not that shiny, but that design. That'll be easy to connect up to those. So it's gonna be all new brake lines, so it should be relatively easy. I should have just bought a kit. I've got a bunch of sections, so I'm hoping I won't have to form any lines, but I do have a kit that came from Jegs, made in the USA, that I can use, but I'm hoping I can just use all my pre-cut, pre-measured pieces. I didn't get anything specific to this car. I just got a bunch of different sizes. Hopefully, I can just bolt it all together and I don't have to deal with cutting lines, making lines, because that's time consuming and just not my favorite thing to do. We'll see how it goes. As you may or may not be able to tell, this car does not have an emergency brake. In such a case, one thing you can do to make things a little safer for yourself, so I've lifted the car up, put it on ramp so I don't have the jack in my way. Put one ramp one direction, so you have this little wall here it has to climb over, and put the other one the opposite direction. That kind of locks it in place a little better in case there's a, you know, a earthquake or something and it might fall on you. Pro tip there. Actually, I'm not a pro, but it is a good tip. All right, after a little bit of a fight, that's what we got now. Old T, new rubber hose. So that allows the axle to float, and then you have the hard lines going to each wheel cylinder. So when you press on the brake pedal, it squirts brake fluid through these lines and expands the shoes inside the drum, and that's what makes you stop. And if you think about it, you've got 4,000 pounds, and you're stopping it by pressing on that pedal, moving it a few inches, and you're stopping a whole car with just 1 foot. Pretty remarkable. So here's our old fuel line and brake line going to the rear. I'd say they are extra crispy. Got the brake lines on here. Looks like Dr. Seuss might have drawn these, but they'll do the job. I mainly want the car to stop so that when we're putting it on a trailer or rolling it off a trailer, we can just hit the brake pedal and it actually works like a brake pedal. We're going to be running some QA1 shocks on the front. In the back, we only have one shock with a helper spring on it. I think we might just go that way. Time's getting tight. You got to make sacrifices. I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, the shaft on it looks totally good. All right, it's now 5 days before this has to go on a 1,000-mile road trip. I do have to work 3 of those days. I think we're gonna be okay. Supposed to get the windshield on Friday and the back glass put in. The rear brake line is right up there. I gotta use a union and run it the rest of the way. Put in the master cylinder. Got a proportioning valve that's external to the master cylinder. We should have brakes tonight. Jacob is over here drilling out the caliper bracket. We're gonna try to get that extracted.
Gotta use some K&N Cut drill bits because they're freaking phenomenal.
K&N Cut has some guidelines for using drill bits. They say to use lubricant. They say to not drill too fast, right?
You know, when you're doing good, it's when you do that. I mean, your speed and feed is correct. And I've kind of just learned that by feel over the years. But you're getting big pigtails like that, you're doing really good.
It's about maybe a 1/2 inch of pretty hard steel, maybe grade 8.
Yeah,
that was pretty fast considering how much metal you just went through. It's not hot.
A little warm, but not bad. When your stuff's sharp, it doesn't get that hot.
So now he's using the neck size for using the screw extractors.
Thing's tight, which is why the bolt broke in the first place. Wasn't able to get it out using the extractor, but I was able to tap it to the original bolt size, which was 7/16 by 14, and it went all the way through. Whether the threads are actually intact and still okay, we're gonna have to look at, but at least we got the broken bolt out of there and some threads put back into it, so we'll just have to see if they're acceptable.
And we do have another bracket coming hopefully Thursday, but if we don't, you know, this will hold probably. It's got one good bolt. The other one just needs to keep things lined up.
I guess, yeah. That's what you want to do with your brakes.
Yeah.
You can see the threads in there. They're not perfect. I think it would hold a bolt. And that's really what counts. This is the bolt from the other side, and you can see it threads right in. And wobbles just a tiny bit, like maybe a couple thousandths. But once it's tight, it would have to rip out all those threads again. So I think it might be okay. You just have to find another bolt now. Why are there
I do have some ordered
head sizes? That's
I think this one, it's shanked so that it helps keep the caliper right on track, and then this one's just kind of holding it in place.
Yeah, but still, why do them two separate sizes?
I don't know. 1965 Ford stuff.
It's weird.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Fixed-ish.
Now we're trying to get the push rod out of the old master cylinder. It doesn't want to cooperate. There it is. I've got this tap because these threads were so rusted. I need to clean them up because I can't get a bolt in there at all. When your threads are too far gone, when they're all rusted up, this can clean them up. So you don't end up breaking a bolt. That seems pretty good. And it helps to put some PB Blaster or WD-40 or oil or whatever. Some kind of lubricant when you're cutting these threads. Don't want it to get jammed up. I'm needing to get a little heat on the clutch pedal and the brake pedal. They're moving, but not too well, so I've sprayed some PB Blaster up in there. So I thought I should break out the Kmart propane torch and see if I can burn the car to the ground. I don't know where I got this, but it's obviously old. So being that the car was without a windshield for some period of time, got a little rust everywhere, as evidenced by the giant holes in the floor. And I got these pedals loosened up a little bit using a bunch of PB Blaster, but together, boop, 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 boop. I'm gonna try to get some heat up here with a torch, and maybe that'll loosen things up, let that oil flow a little bit.
So my dad's been struggling to get the windows to work, but I believe I've managed to make both function. And even better, the door latches now.
Stuff keeps falling out.
And it opens from the outside, so the door handle actually functions. Well, it did function until I shut it with the window down. Maybe the window needs to be up. There's a rod down in here that isn't connected. It's for the door lock.
This thing just fell out from somewhere.
What is that?
I think it's a pin. There's a pocket clip.
Maybe. But it's a weird pin.
From 30 or 40 years ago. I don't know how it fell out. This car should be so secure.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Yep, so secure.
I had the VIN inspected yesterday, and for color, I didn't know what to put.
Oh, it's blue in here.
But I think the burgundy is underneath.
It's underneath, yeah, I think it was that color.
Vintage burgundy is what it's called, I believe.
All right, let's see if this will close now.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's like new.
Fixed. It's just getting lighter every time we close the door. I got the other window down too. We're making progress. Does this door open from the exterior though? It doesn't.
Nope. Doesn't open from the interior, doesn't open from the exterior.
Well, it does if you give me that pair of ice grips.
Man, you got these things on there.
Yeah, you're just a little girl.
I think so.
What happened to that dad strength that people always talk about?
I'm getting old.
He's gonna have to use vice grips to remove the vice grips on the other side.
I can't even do it with the vice grips. I got no strength. There we go.
Thank you. Hey, closing doors means a lot, actually.
Closing doors, opening windows.
Yeah, we don't have engine or floorboards or brakes or a drive shaft or a transmission or anything, really.
So tonight I'm finishing the brakes. Tomorrow I'm going to fiberglass the holes in the roof, and I may do some electrical.
Yeah, this is his switch panel plan, I believe.
Yeah, I'm wondering where I can nail it.
I think you should probably screw through the back of it.
I'm going to put that on the dash.
How many amps are these rated for? 15 amp, 120 volts?
Yeah, I've calculated the power. They should be fine. Well, all right. It is Tuesday night. Have 4 more days to finish this car up. I think we're okay, but, you know, Should I be nervous? Does it look like I'm nervous? Yeah, maybe a little. Back glass and windshield's supposed to happen on Friday. Engine and transmission, maybe on Thursday. Electrical panel, ignition, lights, left and right turn on Saturday. And tomorrow, I'm supposed to be doing some fiberglass on this roof. It is so flimsy, I'm concerned it's gonna blow off. It's certainly not watertight, and we want it to be. I'm gonna put fiberglass cloth and resin on the inside, come back with a layer of resin over the outside. It might be temporary, it will probably be permanent. So one thing I'm doing on these wheel studs, they've been exposed to the weather for decades, and if you try to put a lug nut on there and use it to cut threads, well, then you might end up breaking a stud. So I rented a tap and die set from O'Reilly. I'm going over these studs. It's going to be much easier to do this than to change out the studs or to have a broken stud. Those can be a nightmare. If you have a stud that's too tight, it might lock up inside the lug nut and start spinning in the hub, and then you got to drill a stud out or whatever. It can get real difficult. So this is taking me a little bit of time. It is going to be well worth it, and I didn't even have to buy the tool. And now we're putting on this shiny new 4-piston goodness. It appears that these two pieces hold the pads in, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. Should I turn the rotor? Sure. Am I going to? No. I'm sure the internet is going to be screaming. So this caliper's not going on properly. I think it's hitting on this dust guard, so I might have to bend that back a little bit. It's not going to take much. Yeah, it's hitting here and here, so I just need to bend that back a little bit. The time has come for doing something with this roof. This is really flimsy here, you can see. So I'm going to take a wire wheel to it, clean off the rust, and put some fiberglass under it. It's about the only thing that can be done immediately that will hold us for the trip. We'll do more with it later. What'd you think about the idea? I like it. It'll keep us dry anyway. I don't really know why it's this bad. One of the other cars we picked up with this car, things had been stored on the roof. I think that's what happened here. It held moisture and just ate it up. They do sell replacement roofs, and I do have one on that 66 in the yard. For now, it'll be fiberglass. So I have figured that I need, for 1 cup of resin, this stuff, I need about a teaspoon of hardener. Then I'm going to pour it in here and mix it up. And then I'm gonna lay these strips of cloth. It was a sheet, I cut it up. I know, quality work. But anyway, then I'm gonna try to attach it up on the inside of the roof. The last time I did this, I had a 73 Nova. The floors were rusted through. The cool thing about this is it will lay in the shape of what you need. You can conform it to the folds and the bends, and it becomes waterproof after that. If there's any more leaks, the water lays on the fiberglass, and there's no more rust because this is all sealed up. I haven't done anything to clean the floors on this. I want to get the roof done first because that's more important. Although that side over there, yeah, that's pretty important. You could lose a foot. I put a cover over this nice seat because we don't want to mess that up. So here we go. First piece, dipping it in the resin. It's a little goopy, a little slimy. I think it's gonna hold once I get it stuck all the way around the edges. Come on, stay on there. Stay with me. Oh yeah, that's gonna work. Need to get rid of my hat. Let's see what that looks like up top. Janky. This stuff gets pretty strong. I mean, they make cars out of it, right? Oh yeah. Got to get stuck down around the edges, otherwise it will start to peel off from the weight of it. I do want it to look good. It is possible with that resin on the outside and a good foundation under here. Want to cover all the big holes for starters. Add some rigidity to the roof. Start in the middle, spread your fingers out. And I think once it's on there, it's not likely to drip so much once it's flat on there. Excuse the drip. I need long sleeves and long gloves. Yeah, this stuff is nasty. It's pretty rough back here. This stuff is burning on my hands. It's not good. Probably a carcinogen. Let's see if I can mix this stuff up with one hand. About a cup of resin. It's pretty thick stuff. And it's Bondo brand. James Bondo. And then the hardener, just about a teaspoon. If you put in just even a little extra, this stuff gets hot because the chemical reaction, and it sets much quicker. I've got just a few more places where there's holes that I can see, and the goal would be to do a couple layers fully. You can see there's definitely some spots that aren't done yet. It drips, it's messy, and I'm kind of at my limit here. As far as reach, it wants to fall. If you don't get most of it in full contact, it will start falling down. Obviously, that's not an issue when you're doing floors. I do plan on doing the floors, maybe with some metal and then the fiberglass, but it could just be the fiberglass. And I need to do something with the top because, you know, water will get down in here and then it will cause separation. So this is definitely not enough on its own. I could probably go over the whole roof with a coating of fiberglass, sand it down smooth and paint it, and it would look pretty freaking good. What y'all think? Found if I use two hands, kind of start it in the middle, force the air out, spread it out, it's much less likely to fall while I'm putting it up there. Pro tips from a non-pro. And gloves are a must. This is the last batch I'm doing for the night. It's almost midnight. I would like to do the front brakes tonight, get them done, so that putting it on the trailer tomorrow to take it to the shop, it has brakes. That would be a good thing. As you can see, this stuff is just a mess. It's been over 40 years since I've worked with fiberglass. I still don't know how to weld. If it's a car you're not really worried about and you just don't want holes in your floors, this is a much cheaper, easier solution. You don't have to buy floor pans and cut out floor pans and weld floor pans. Nope. And I'm all about working harder, not smarter. Not really. I do like an easy fix. And this is it. Oh, come on now. Cooperate. But it's saying, don't leave me hanging. Okay, that's a bad dad joke. It's like I'm an artist. The underside wouldn't look too bad with a coat of paint over it, or maybe a bunch of boom mat. The goal is to cover everywhere because I have no idea. There's all kinds of little pinholes. The only way to get it truly sealed up is to see nothing but shiny fiberglass. Really drips a lot till you get all the stragglers tacked up. Many of y'all do fiberglass before? I know you can't answer because it's only one-way communication. I hear thunder rumbling in the distance. I'm gonna have to push the car in. Made it in right before the rain started. A few drops hit the front fenders. Had the car partway in. But the top is fine. I think it wouldn't have hurt it anyway, because most of this is already dry and it's looking pretty good. Let's turn out the lights and see what it looks like. You wanna know how bad it was rusted? There you go. But now it's sealed up. Almost 100%. There might be a few holes. It'll do for the hot rod power tour. It is not a permanent solution. I could buy a new skin, put it on there. Being the master mechanic that I am not, that would probably never work. So today is the day. Taking it to the shop, maybe gonna have a running motor in it tonight. We will see. We're gonna cut to the time lapse while we put it on the trailer.